Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you my week 12 and 13 pregnancy update, my last update of the first trimester. I apologize for not getting a video up last week for my week 12 update, but to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot that happened during week 12, which is not a bad thing at all. I just didn't really have much to talk about. So I decided to make my week 12 update and week 13 update into one video for you guys. So week 13 in particular was definitely interesting. I ended up in the ER again this week due to a migraine and dehydration, which I will talk all about that a little bit later on in the video. But first, let's get into my stats and symptoms for the past 2 weeks. So in week 12, baby was the size of a plum, and in week 13, baby was the size of a lemon. Food aversions still vary depending on the day. I'm still struggling with figuring out what types of foods sound good to me, particularly around dinner time, although I haven't really been experiencing a whole lot of nausea, so that's not the reason why I'm having food aversions. It's just food in general still is a struggle for me to figure out what sounds good to me to eat. But food cravings, I still haven't experienced any particular food cravings at all. We'll see if that changes here in the coming weeks or not. So my symptoms have been fairly mild with the exception of the migraine that I experienced. I'm still dealing with acne, especially around my face. I have the occasional fatigue. The fatigue is definitely nothing like it was at the beginning of the first trimester. I've experienced, of course, like I said, headaches and migraines the past week, especially. I have started feeling stretching and I think my first bout of round ligament pain. I am also dealing with a lot of congestion. My allergies have continued to bother me pretty much on a daily basis, and some days are worse than others. Today in particular, as I'm sure you can tell by my voice, I'm just very congested today. It's just one of those days, but with that, I have been sneezing a lot, and that's when I experience the round ligament pain. When I sneeze, I just get a sharp pain, kind of like on the sides of my belly, which everything I've read has said it's most likely round ligament pain. So that has been interesting. And the last symptom is that I've continued to experience indigestion, although it has lessened in severity as I've tried to stop eating spicy foods, although that has been a struggle, but I'm really trying to stay away from spicy foods because that really makes the indigestion a whole lot worse. So as I mentioned, I ended up going to the ER earlier this week, and that is because I had what was probably the worst migraine I have ever experienced in my entire life. It started off one day as just a headache, kind of like a tension headache in the back of my head. And if you have experienced migraines before, you know there is a big difference between a headache and a migraine. They are two completely different things, different types of pain. Migraine is usually centralized to one part of your head, and the pain is just extremely intense, and migraines are honestly very debilitating. You can become sensitive to light, sensitive to smells. You can get nausea and vomiting along with it, which happens to me every single time I get a migraine. So migraines in general are just awful, and they're even more awful when you're pregnant and can't take most types of medication for it. So this one day I woke up and I had a headache, and it kind of came and went throughout the day, and I just didn't feel well this day. I was dealing with a little bit of nausea and just like hot flashes, and just overall I just didn't feel well. And that night I decided to go to bed early just because I kind of started deteriorating throughout the day. and I probably went to bed around 8 o'clock and then woke up a few hours later realizing that the headache that I had turned into a full-blown migraine as I was sleeping, and the pain was no longer back here but had moved like right around my left eye, and it's just this awful, intense, constant stabbing, sharp pain. And all throughout the night I just struggled. I didn't really sleep at all. I was feeling extremely nauseous, and I was just in a lot of pain and not comfortable whatsoever. And the next day I didn't improve at all. I continued to have the intense pain from the migraine, and not only that, but I wasn't able to stomach any food. I tried to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I was just vomiting like the entire day. Anytime I would try to eat anything, anytime I would try to sip on water, I would end up in the bathroom throwing up. And it got so bad that around dinner time I tried to eat some soup again, as I had earlier in the day, and I couldn't stomach it. I was continuing to throw up. John had got me some Pedialyte and I couldn't stomach that either. Again, just sipping on water, I couldn't even keep that down. So at that point it had been over 24 hours since I had eaten anything or been able to keep any water down. So we made the decision that I needed to go see a doctor, because it wasn't as much of the pain from migraine that was really worrying me. It was just the fact that I hadn't been able to drink any sort of water in over 24 hours. And I know dehydration is really not good for anyone, but especially if you're pregnant. And so I just thought, I need to get some help. I need to get fluids in me. I need to get this vomiting to stop. And we live in a very, very small town. So small, in fact, that we don't have an urgent care. So at that point that night, the only option for me was to go to the ER. So that's what we did. And I was seen right away, thankfully, and the doctor came in and talked to us about everything that was going on. And so he said the first thing to do, since I am pregnant, is to just check in on baby, make sure the baby's heart rate is good, make sure that the situation with the baby is okay before doing anything else. So I didn't go in there expecting an ultrasound. I just thought maybe they would get the handheld Doppler and check on the heart rate, but he did bring in a portable ultrasound machine and checked in on baby, which I was not going to complain about whatsoever. Baby looked great, of course, since at this point I was almost 14 weeks pregnant. The last time we saw baby was at 9 weeks and 6 days. So baby has grown a ton since then. And the heart rate was great. It was averaging 135 beats per minute. So it has definitely slowed down since earlier on in my pregnancy. I think the heartbeat was averaging around 160. So now it's down to around 135, which is still great. It's within normal range. I couldn't see the ultrasound very well just because I was laying down and the machine was kind of higher up. But John said that baby was doing like a little dance as the ultrasound was happening. He said the baby was just wiggling around, and it was just kind of funny. So I'm glad he got to see that. It sounded really cute, but yeah, I'm grateful that baby is doing well and everything looked normal. So the doctor, of course, recommended for me to get an IV with fluids going just to get me rehydrated. He was really encouraging me to take medication for the headache and the nausea, which I refused at first because I just wasn't comfortable with it. I really just wanted to get rehydrated and see if that helped me feel better before resorting to taking any sort of medication. I know he was trying to be reassuring to me and let me know that this medication was safe to use during pregnancy, but I just was still not completely comfortable with that option yet. So they just got the IV going with fluids, and after about 30 minutes, the doctor checked in on me, and I wasn't improving at all. My headache was still excruciatingly painful. I was still nauseous. I was actually still vomiting. At that point, I didn't obviously have any food on my stomach. I was just vomiting stomach acid, which is not a fun experience at all. My entire throat just felt like it was on fire because, of course, of the stomach acid. So after about 40 minutes of this, I wasn't improving at all. I was still vomiting, and I just thought, like, okay, this, at least I don't even care about the pain in my head right now. It's just the vomiting just needs to stop, because I need to be able to drink water. Like, eventually I'm gonna have to go home, and I'm gonna have to be able to keep water down. So John and I decided to go ahead and take the medication. And so the doctor gave me a dose of Benadryl and a medication called Reglan, which apparently, I never heard of this before, but it's a medication that's typically administered to help with nausea, but it can also help with migraine pain. And it has been deemed safe for use during pregnancy. So that's what they gave me. And the Benadryl, of course, made me really drowsy, but I still wasn't really able to sleep at that point, just because I was still feeling nauseous and the pain from the migraine was still there. It took a little while for the medication to kick in, but after about, I'd say maybe 20 minutes or so, I started to feel a lot better. The pain wasn't as intense anymore. The nausea went away. I wasn't throwing up anymore, and I felt significantly better. And they ended up discharging me shortly after that. But we ended up coming home, and I had been able to sip on water and get that down, so that was good. And I went to bed and slept through the entire night without any issues, and I woke up the next day feeling 100% better. So I'm so grateful for that. That was not the first migraine I've experienced this pregnancy, and I'm sure that it won't be the last. I just hope that if I do have more migraines in the future, that they're not as bad as that one, because it was just awful. So the last thing I have to update you on is just how my bump is doing. So I'll insert the clip of my bump here. I still don't feel like I look really pregnant. I don't think my belly has popped out too much yet. I'm sure I will get there eventually, but I don't know. You let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you are in week 12 or week 13 of your pregnancy, leave me a comment down below and let me know how you are feeling. I am excited to start the second trimester. I feel like this first trimester honestly dragged on quite a bit. So many people I hear talking about how pregnancy just flies by and it goes by so quickly, and I feel like at least this first trimester has just dragged on, and it's been just really long. And I'm like, so many people are like, I can't believe you're in the second trimester, and I'm over here like, I can't believe I'm barely in the second trimester. I don't know, I'm anxious to meet this baby and start, you know, being a mother and all of the joy that, you know, motherhood and parenthood brings. But I'm trying to just enjoy this slow time, and I am enjoying every moment of this pregnancy, even when I am having a horrible migraine and throwing up all day. I'm just so grateful for this blessing and so happy to be here. And yeah, so I'm just gonna stop rambling now. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week for my week 14 update, which will be my first update in the second trimester. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any of my videos. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon. Bye.